On camera. 3, 2. Thanks so much for being with us here on ANF Plus. I'm Joy Limnacker, joined today by attorney Jamara Edward Shipp. Thank you again, Mr. Shipp, for being with us. And what we're here to talk about today is the arrest of the suspected so-called CEO assassin. So, you know, we've been following the story very closely. After searching for days, police finally found this person who is now charged with killing United Healthcare CEO in New York last week, all thanks to a tip from a McDonald's employee. A spokesperson for the Pennsylvania State Court says 26-year-old Luigi Mangione is now in police custody. McDonald's employee in Altoona, Pennsylvania recognized him, felt he fit the gunman's description, and then called police. Altoona police officers originally arrested Mangione on firearms charges, but after an arraignment, he's now also been charged with 1 count of second-degree murder, 2 counts of second-degree criminal possession of a weapon, 1 count of second-degree possession of a forged document, as well as 1 count of third-degree criminal possession of a weapon. Naomi Ruckham has more.
This morning, Luigi Mangione is behind bars. The 26-year-old was arraigned and later charged with second-degree murder yesterday in the shooting death of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson.
Justice will be delivered in this case.
Pennsylvania police were called to the scene after the Maryland native was spotted by an employee at a McDonald's in Altoona around 9:15 a.m. yesterday. Investigators say they approached him and asked if he had recently been to New York.
He became visibly nervous, kind of shaking at that question.
Police say he was carrying a fake New Jersey ID that matched the one allegedly used to check into a New York hostel last week. Authorities say they later recovered Mangione's passport with his real name, along with a gun, suppressor, and clothing that they believe are consistent with those used in the shooting, and a 3-page handwritten document expressing ill will toward corporate America.
He's a coward, not a hero.
Mangione is from a prominent Maryland family that owns multiple country clubs. He was the valedictorian of his 2016 class at the elite all-boys Gilman School in Baltimore, and later earned computer science degrees from the University of Pennsylvania.
I knew of him. I knew him somewhat well. He was a nice kid.
Mangione spent time in Hawaii in 2022 and 2023. 2 sources who knew him then say he suffered from back pain due to an injury. Naomi Ruckham, CBS News, New York.
All right, so, you know, Jamara Edward Shipp joining us now. You do criminal defense, you do a number of different practice areas, but what we've heard now is that he was initially, this suspect here was brought in on a weapons charge, and now you've got a murder charge and various other charges. What are your initial thoughts on the arraignment process? And obviously we're very early in the justice process, but on the arraignment so far.
So to temper everything, I do want to state that, you know, New York law, Pennsylvania law, Georgia law, all 3 different jurisdictions, so we got a little bit of a difference in how things operate. In Pennsylvania, he was brought up for a first appearance, what is analogous to a first appearance here in Georgia, and it was asked of him whether he wanted to enter a plea. He chose not to. He said that he would do it at a later date. He was denied bond. Of course, these are serious charges. Just like if you go in front of a magistrate in Georgia, when you have charges of murder, things like that, you're not going to get a bond. It's going to be denied pretty quickly. So, yeah, I think the next stage is him being extradited back to New York. He's in the custody of Pennsylvania Bureau of Prisons right now, so he'll be extradited back to New York, and then he'll be brought in front of that jurisdiction in order to face the charges, and at that point he might be up for a bond hearing to determine whether or not he'll be granted a pretrial release.
You know, there's already been a lot of chatter, for instance, on social media about what a jury, I mean, again, to be clear, like you said, a trial is way off, and it always begins with jury selection. But there's been already a lot of chatter on social media about the difficulty that there might be in terms of jury selection because, well, a couple of reasons. You know, many people have had negative experiences with health insurance companies, right? So I wonder how that might play a role in how this process looks going forward.
Well, yeah, I think it's going to be very hard to find an impartial jury that hasn't experienced or doesn't have a family member who has experienced some type of adverse reaction from a healthcare company or a health insurance company. You have to remember, America loves its folk heroes, all the way from, the John Dillingers, who was the Robin Hood-esque bank robber back then, all the way up into this guy who, before he was caught, there wasn't a lot of, let's face it, remorse or even grief about the murder of the CEO. So, again, it is going to be tough, in my opinion, for them to find a jury that can look at this impartially and, not even determine if they want to do some type of jury nullification.
Yeah, no, and it's also, the point has been made as just kind of, I've been looking at different reaction on social media about the likability in some respects of this suspect. Apparently he is viewed as likable by some segments of the population. He has been described as attractive and successful. He graduated from an Ivy League university, University of Pennsylvania, with both undergraduate and graduate degrees. So it seems that there also is concern that, a jury might really be sympathetic towards him. Do you think that that's true?
I think that that's extremely true. I mean, what lawyer wouldn't rejoice at the fact that you have a client like this who is basically an All-American? He's valedictorian. He's, got computer and computer science graduate and undergraduate degrees. He matriculated through COVID. He has, connections throughout his state of Maryland with his family. He is basically the ideal candidate for what we look for in our clients. We want somebody who doesn't have a criminal history, who doesn't, engage in all types of debauchery. This is a good guy. So for whatever reason, I think it's going to be hard for a jury to view him as a cold-blooded killer. And again, this may end up being one of those cases that surprises everyone.
So, it's interesting that it's not just one count of second-degree murder, but also 2 counts of second-degree criminal possession of a weapon, second-degree possession of a forged document, 1 count of third-degree criminal possession of a weapon. So I'm just wondering, why are those lower charges there? And they're really not the main focus.
So we have to look at the fact of what happened when he was arrested. They saw him with the gun. They got the ghost gun that was 3D printed. It was supposed to be used to hurt someone, so that's why you have the second degree possession of a firearm under New York statute. You also have third degree for possibly the silencer that was found. You have the fake ID, the New Jersey ID, that coincides with the false documents that he used to go into the hostel. So all of these things are, yes, lower charges, but they all build into, hey, this is actually just a part of the bigger case, which is the homicide of that United Healthcare CEO.
I also wonder why there was only 1 murder charge, because a lot of times we see that, prosecutors will lay out charges, different kinds of homicide charges in the alternative, like a manslaughter charge along with a murder charge, or different degrees of murder, so that the jury really has choices to make. Do I want to, maybe if I'm a juror, I say, yes, there was a homicide. He is responsible for it. I don't think it's murder. I think it's manslaughter. Or I don't think it's second degree murder. I think it's third degree murder. So why weren't there more options laid out?
So I can say that's probably a jurisdictional difference. In Georgia, a lot of prosecutors will have, those stack of charges to do exactly what you said, try and make sure that the jury has some way to convict this person. But it could just be a jurisdictional difference in that, in New York, they probably say, okay, this is what it falls under, so this is how we're going to charge it. And then if he doesn't get the conviction under that particular charge, he could, theoretically walk with, those lesser includeds. But again, that probably comes down to just a jurisdictional difference between Georgia and New York.
So if you're his attorney, what's your best defense?
Well, you could try an insanity defense. You could, try a manslaughter defense. There's a complete realm of possibilities that you could go down to try and help this young man. But I think the biggest one would be, just saying that he temporarily went insane. He's left a manifesto allegedly, and that could, paint a picture of what his mental state was at the time. Now, of course, the prosecution is going to say this was all premeditated and this is evidence of such, but again, not many people are driven to do as much as he did to try and possibly cause the death of this CEO.
I know you've been reading up on the case quite a bit, and prosecutors don't share publicly what kind of evidence they're going to use until we see it really at trial. But what do you think might be really helpful to prosecutors in this case?
I think the fact that he wrote out this manifesto and basically signed it and said, at the top line, he says, I'm going to save you the time and effort. I did this by myself. I think that's going to be the most damning piece of evidence for the defense. However, a good defense attorney can always explain away the evidence or even just give a second view to it. We're only going to see it through the lens of the prosecutor, I'm sure, as the case starts to come towards trial. They're going to put out more and say, hey, this is not a person to be celebrated. I mean, you just saw the governor say such. He's not a hero. He's a coward. But again, a defense attorney is going to take that evidence and paint a picture to the American public that this guy is, while he may not be a hero, he was just mentally disturbed at the time and possibly led him down this path of committing a murder.
Any other thoughts that you want to share with us, things that we should watch for as this whole justice process unfolds?
This is going to be a very interesting jury selection. I think we should watch how this plays out. This probably won't go as long as, the YSL trial here in Atlanta, but
Nothing
again,
does.
right. Again, I think we should, pay attention to how the jurors perceive this individual and some of the things that they may even say about their experiences with healthcare in America. And I think that this is a larger conviction of the healthcare system in America, and it's going to be interesting to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. Attorney Jamara Edward Shipp joining us. Before we let you go, tell us a little bit about your practice areas and yourself as an attorney.
J. Edward Shipp. I've been practicing in the state of Georgia for about 5-6 years. You can reach out to me for general practice questions because I am a general practitioner. Kind of help everybody with everything. So reach out to me on Facebook, J. Edward Shipp, Jamara Edward Shipp, J. Shipp Law on Instagram. Reach out to me. We'll see if we can help you out.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And to our viewers, of course, we're going to keep following the latest on this story here on AtlantaNewsFirst.com and Atlanta News First Plus. If you haven't done so yet, please download our free app to get updates sent right to your phone. Now back to Local News Live.